Goals. Let's talk about goals for next year. Welcome to Between Chapters. I'm Eric, and I figured it is normal to do this time of year is do some goal setting. In fact, in my coaching practice, I actually have a goal setting quarterly activity I do with people, but I'm not a big goal setter. So it always feels a little bit false because the way I do goals is not the traditional way. I mean, it is, but I don't hold myself to them. They're more like these guiding posts or targets that you put out. I always envision it like this. A goal is a target that you put at the end. You're an archer and you're aiming at something. And it's not so much that you're hitting your target, it's that you're shooting arrows in a direction and not just zinging them off into the forest at random, because who knows what you're going to hit then. It just is a focal point. And then also there's people next to you, so they have targets as well. And you're really taking this moment to look at, am I hitting somebody else's target? Because this is where I get myself in trouble a lot, is I see a lot of goal setting. I'm like, that's a good idea. I even follow YouTubers that have goal setting videos, and I'm like, that's a good idea. I should do that. And then I go out and I jump and I say, I'm going to read all of, Matt Dinniman's book series this year. And then I'm like, that's not my target. That's me being inspired by somebody else's. And ultimately I have to look and say, that's not a target I should aim an arrow at. So I want to talk about the ones that I'm aiming at, the ones that give me direction. And as long as you're on the range and you haven't stepped off and gone home and aren't shooting at other people's targets, you're okay. So goals. I made a little joke about Matt Dinniman and the DCC series, but it is a goal of mine to work further through that series in 2026. The whole series probably isn't going to be realistic because I've got other goals that I'm going for, and I read kind of slow. Not the slowest, but not fast enough where I can, have what time I have to get through the novel. And I think it's realistic for me to do one a quarter. So my goal is to read four of the next books in the DCC series. And I think that's very attainable, and it sounds exciting. And one of the reasons I'm choosing this as a goal for my reading is because of the drought that I've been in, the slump that I've been in. Going through books and finding a lot that I don't like and realizing my tolerance or my range of books I wanted to expand this year, and I gave it a shot. It did not manifest the way I wanted it to, and that's okay. I have felt plenty of guilt about not liking certain books and feeling not inspired necessarily, but maybe envious of people who like this large body of work. My brain will not let me stay focused. If I'm not caught in the story or intrigued by something, my brain will not stay in the pages. And I don't know exactly what that is or if it's something I'm supposed to power through, but right now it is not. It actually makes me want to leave the range, as I was talking about. So I'm trying to use 2026 as a recalibration to just make sure I'm staying on it and going back to some series that I enjoy. And the only one I'm going to commit to is Dungeon Crawler Carl. Will I try to read other books? Yes. And I might do some, I will be doing more reading. I will put that out there. It's just going to be more from the Jungian perspective, learning more about the philosophies and psychological principles of Carl Jung, which is something I'm really into, and that's going to help with certain things that I have for other goals. The other goal of being able to release my deck of cards for the Hero's Journey deck, as well as a guidebook that's going to go along with it. There's going to be a short booklet and a longer book, so I want to publish that this year. I also have the goal of getting Where Magic Slept published this year, and going back and editing The Red King. That was my first full novel I wrote. I've grown since then. I've tried other novels, and I have a bunch of other starts in other novels that are very interesting to me. But I want to go back and edit that because it's a complete body of work. And so I just want to see if I can salvage it, maybe is the word. I like the story. It's just, again, it's not a story that's going to be groundbreaking. I actually wrote The Red King after I had a really vivid dream about the president at the time. This was back in 2020. The president suspending democracy to create a monarchy and become the Red King so that they could stay in power indefinitely. This was very much, that idea of Caesar, taking over rule and then staying in power and all of that. It's very much reminiscent of that, but it was so vivid, and I had it 2 days in a row, and I really felt, because I've never had a dream start and then continue the next night, that it was important to write. And it was important because it got me writing novels. It got me to finish a goal I've had and just thought was impossible, which is to write a freaking long book. And this one was like 90,000 words, or maybe it was less than that, but not Where Magic Slept, 140,000 words, or I don't even know where it's at right now. It might be lower. It's I've reduced and I've expanded, so I don't know where it's at. But goal 1 for that is release Where Magic Slept. Maybe do an audiobook for that, but then edit The Red King, while also staying open to the creative flow of developing the second book in the Split Root Chronicles that will follow Where Magic Slept, called The Weight of Power, as well as looking at 2 other books that I started as a way to, jostle things up, to try to get the creativity flowing and open those channels, because it's important to stay connected to that. Another goal I have is to do, not necessarily quarterly, not weekly, not bi-weekly, semi-annually. I don't know what it's going to be, but I am going to be doing some calls to try to take people through some programming that I wrote and created to help with some self-development things, coaching. I really want to stay connected to my coaching practice. Doesn't have to be a big moneymaker, but I'm going to be doing a beta group of about 5 to 6 people starting January or February. I'm still developing the curriculum. I have the template, but I need to fine tune it and whatnot, but it'll be something that I really want to achieve, so I can do some kind of regular connection with that, because all of these parts of who I am are parts of who I am. They've been things I've discovered about my authentic self, my truest self, and as Joseph Campbell said, the greatest privilege of life is becoming who you truly are. And that's one of the things that caused me to develop the Daily Heroics, is my own journey to figuring out who I truly am, which is a lifelong pursuit. I'm not there. It's a lifelong pursuit. Growth is a part of life that should never stop, but I want to help people do that, and that's through different Jungian practices, that's through creativity, that's through storytelling, that's through metaphor, finding your own personal metaphor, finding meaning in life and in story, and why we connect with certain stories and why we love certain movies, and songs can make us cry and we don't usually cry. All of that is connected. I'm also going to, on Daily Heroics, start, because I think that's probably what I need to do, because I used to do it on this page a long time ago, where it was My Modern Myth, where I took mythology and but I took meaning from it and gave it in a way that you could apply it to your life. I did this with fairy tales. I was going through all the Grimm fairy tales, because fairy tales, myths, fables, legends, all of these things are archetypal language. They are giving you a guidebook of life or some aspect of life, and they're entertaining, but ultimately they are holders of unconscious truths, of universal truths, and that seems silly, but I promise you it's not. And I might get back into that, just going back through the Grimm fairy tales to start and parsing out little lessons that are really nice things. I loved fairy tales growing up. I had this annotated Mother Goose book that I loved as a elementary schooler, so it was as close to encyclopedic research that I ever enjoyed as a kid. But it was this big book of all Mother Goose fairy tales, and the annotations talked about the possible meanings and origins of all of these, and that was fascinating to me. That expanded to Grimm fairy tales, and I just love them. I also get a kick out of it because there's so much meaning in, like, Mulan or Rapunzel, Tangled, whatever, and the Cinderella stories and all of these things get, I don't know what the word I want to use. I was going to say appropriated, but it's not. The messaging gets twisted, and the original meaning, the unconscious truths that are in it, get stuffed down for a superficial kind of very direct understanding of what it is, even to include things like the prince kissing the princess to wake her. It becomes about consent and things like that, and I totally get it, because everything can have a meaning, but I still want to not lose the thread of what that meant and the perspective of the masculine energy, not the man, awakening the feminine power of the unconscious. So in Jung's perspective, it was the animus and the anima, and that was waking up the masculine in women and waking up the feminine in men, so that we could be fully balanced and not project or idealize one gender or sex over the other. So there's all of these meanings that get pushed to the side because we look at the superficial, and I just don't want those lessons to get lost, because we can have a debate and, like, how do we write stories going forward, but I don't want the original truth and power to be lost. So I might kick off that series. That's one of my goals for 2026. And I don't have like a schedule that I want to follow. It's just, it's fun for me and it's helpful to some people. I don't know if it is or isn't, but it's helpful to me to talk about, and I love it. So I think that's what you should do with your channel, is share what you love and not try to chase metrics. And that's my goal for 2026 as well, is to not care at all about metrics, except for getting excited that there's regular people that come back to the channel and engage with it and find it I don't know, fun, find it helpful, find it challenging, find it, I don't know. What do you find it? Like, I don't know. Do you get a laugh? Do you smile? Do you think? Any of that? Like, that's all my goals. Like, that's my core values is, authenticity, vulnerability, growth, laughter, all of these things I want to be here, but not in a way that I'm trying to change who I am to try and get clicks up, to try and get click-through rates, to try and get watch hours, to try and get likes and comments and shares and subscribers. All of these are what I believe to be byproducts of being authentic, of really sharing what you care about. And then you get, like they say, your true 1,000 fans that will really, I'm going to say buy, but that's what they say is they'll buy what you put out. And what I mean by buy is they'll watch and they'll invest. If there's a book, because they still care about your writing or whatever, your art, they will buy it to support you as a creator. Not necessarily because you've manipulated them into handing over dollars, or they believe in what you're doing, but you don't. You're just playing a role so that you can get the dollars. I'm not interested in that at all. I want people to, if they value what I do and have an opportunity to invest and to buy something I've created, like my cards or my novels, that number one, they get to do it because they're interested. And number two, they're like, cool, I get to help a small creator do something and make more creative works, because that's what this channel is about in a secondary capacity. I want to create more, but not in a way that costs my family financial risk, because I'm not really a business guy. A final goal I'll share with you is to find a business person, not someone I don't know or that is just wanting to create an empire, but someone who would like to partner and help, shore up things that I'm weak in, but because they believe in what I'm doing. And that's a conversation I have to have with people and find out, for my cards, one option I have is to give you the images and allow you to go and print them if you want, which I think $50 to $70 is what it costs to print a deck of cards. You could get the digital guidebook. That's real easy, but to take the digital images and put them into Make My Playing Cards or whatever site you want, a Ninja, whatever, I can't remember. I've researched a bunch of these sites and print them off. It's a process and it's frustrating, and I don't really want to make people do that. But if I buy bulk cards, I'm terrible with managing inventory and accounting kind of stuff. So I would need someone that would be willing to take that, after we did pre-sales and made sure that we could cover our cost, and then I'd ship them to that person, and then they would be responsible for shipping out. But then I'm like, how do I make custom notes and sign it? But I just there's a lot to figure out. I had to figure it out. And they're all limitations that are barriers to me pursuing my goals. They've stopped me for 2 years, but 2026 is the year where I stop that, because I've grown in those 2 years. I'm not the same person, and I hope none of us are the same person we were 2 years ago, even if that's fractional changes that we don't see. We've probably grown. That's the goal. So that's my 2026 goal overview. I kind of blacked out there and have no idea what I said, so I'm going to watch this back when I edit it, and I'm going to write down my goals, because it's probably better that I remember what I said that I committed to, and that you guys aren't the only ones that know what I committed to. So at the end of the year, they're like, you did nothing, dude. You didn't do any of your goals. Where's your book? Where's your cards? Where's your classes, bro? Well, I don't know until I watch this back and write them down. So I'm going to get to it before I forget that I need to do that, because I do that sometimes. I forget things. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to not be. I'm definitely trying to just be me. And that, when that can be enough, that's a good time. That's a good place to be, when you are enough. Don't you love how the simple statements are often the hardest to embrace? And when you say them, people get pissed. I've had so many people say some really crazy stuff to me after I said nothing at all. I had one of my recent ones was sharing some love for my bro, from my army brother. And it was just pure and being like, man, I'm grateful for what he's been to me and what I've been able to be for him. And I hope we all have a friend that we can find. And if we don't have a friend like that, that we keep looking and figure out where we can go. And I got hate for that. Like, smack my head. What the was that? Like, disgusted. And I'm like, if I can't just share something kind and avoid getting hate, what do you want from me? Is the energy we want to foster this just shadow masculinity where it's aggression, not assertiveness? Because that's a big difference. Aggression is just deep insecurity and victim mindset that masquerades as power. Because if I just scream at you and I insult you and I beat you down and I then ignore the feeling of like I'm a terrible person because I'm just hurting you intentionally, if I block that with laughing at you because you got reacted, I'm like, ha, snowflake, sensitive little guy. That's not winning. That's wearing a mask that is not heroic at all. And so I am very tired of being emotionally reactive to those comments. And the problem is it stops me from doing good things. It stops me from reaching people that actually care about what I have to say and that I can positively impact. I've had someone that treated me that way and their profile says just trying to bring a little bit of Jesus into this world. And I'm like, you failed. Whether you believe in religion or not, I know who Jesus is supposed to be based on what I've read and understand. I know who Muhammad is. I know Buddha. I know Krishna. I know all these different guys because I've studied multiple religions. Not one of them, if you follow a teaching, tells you that cruelty is the way to show love. But I digress. I'm here to say I need to deal with that. I need to get over my own fear and feelings that stop me from doing what I'm supposed to do, that block me from becoming who I truly am, that block me from the greatest privilege of life. And I don't even see these people. They're just text characters on a screen. Probably would never say that to my face. So why would I let them silence this one? Not doing anything wrong that I can see. I need to let the voices of confirmation and support ring so much louder than I let them. That's not a trackable goal, but it is a direction, and that's where I want to go. So I've got some reading to do, got some writing to do, I've got some sharing to do, I've got some resiliency to grow, got some classes to teach, and that's a pretty full 2026. Set that against family stuff. We got a plan, and that plan leads to life, so let's go live some life. I hope 2026 finds you walking into the next great adventure and the next chapter of your life in the most empowered way possible. If you want help with that, I'll share maybe some here, but go to my Daily Heroics page, subscribe there, and I'm going to be doing more lessons. I won't share that goal, but there's a goal to do more work on that page. So go there, follow me so I can better delineate who wants what content, so you're getting what you want, not skipping 3 videos to make sure you get to the one about, the next Matt Dinniman book or whatever, and how I'm doing with my writing and my novel. Just writing novel here. Daily Heroics has the Become the Hero of Your Life story. Everything about that is going to be there. I'm trying to better organize the containers so it's more clear for you and the algorithm, because bow down to the great algorithm, and we all play the game, but we should play it in a way that lifts us up, not crushes us down and makes us change who we are. Thanks for stopping by. That's going to do it for this one. Hope to see you in the next one, and until then, journey well, my friends.